There it is. Much to the chagrin of everybody out there, the second balcony was not canceled. We didn't get fired. Nobody quit. But we're back. We're back after about a week away, a little over a week. I don't even remember the last time show we did. Feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, we're the herpes of Blackhawks podcast. You think it's cleared up, and then it shows up again.
Always at the worst possible times.
That's right.
I have remembered to do this at the beginning of our episode. Please hit that subscribe button, like the episode, follow along on your favorite podcast, give us those 5-star reviews, tell your friends, help us grow our audience. I'm so bad at that. I usually wait to the end of the episode where you rightfully pointed out if someone's still listening in the 56-minute mark, chances are they've already subscribed to the podcast. So we got to beg for follows and likes to start the podcast while we still have everybody's attention.
And we are the rarest of things. We're somebody that says something stupid on the internet. We're actually in the United States.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're barely in the United States. You're down in Florida. That's
a
touch and go place.
I'm sitting on my porch right now. It's what, 6:15 at night here. It's about 80 degrees. It's beautiful.
Sure. You're just surrounded by other pet appealing, but that's a different podcast.
Well, I live in a town called Winter Park. It's basically Evanston, Florida.
All right, sounds good.
Well, actually, it's kind of an amalgamation of all the North Shore towns because we've got like the $5 million homes. I don't know if any of the Magic live here. I know there's one house that used to be owned by Horace Grant.
Nice.
And when he moved, whoever bought the house after had to gut it because the cabinets and counters and everything were all designed for somebody who was Horace Grant's height.
You don't even think of that. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess that's easier than buying Gary Coleman's old house.
Yeah, although the one other celebrity that I know lives in Winter Park. Well, Tim Tebow works for a wealth management company here. I don't know if he actually lives here, but Carrot Top lives here.
Stretching the use of the word celebrity there, but okay, I'll allow it. People know.
I was going to say, people know who Carrot Top is. To me, that meets the criteria.
There you go. His anabolic steroid dealer must be in the neighborhood too.
Yeah, the
Hawks
could use Carrot Top against the Sabres.
They could have used anybody against the Sabres. A lot to talk about since we're here, and we'll get to hockey. Might as well start. 3 losses in a row. Probably should start with that Seattle game. That was a really good second period in that game. Probably their best second period of the season, but then they flipped the script. Usually they blew a 2-goal lead and lost 3-2. Of course, the thing gaining the most attention in that game was the Connor Bedard incident, where they missed a pretty clear slash to the hand on a breakaway, and then he got into the ref's face. I think it was kind of bad luck that the way he finished, and skated away from the net, he ended up right into the referee's lap.
Yeah.
But he gets the game as an unsportsmanlike conduct, and of course,
you got 2 minutes unsportsmanlike.
And of course, the Kraken score with 2 seconds left on that power play, take a 3-2 lead, and it just deflates that game. But I did the CHGO Blackhawks post game with Jay Zawaski, and we were taking a beating because Jay and I were like, that sucked. It was a blatant missed call. There's no way Bedard should have got the call, but they had already blown the game at that point. That wasn't the turning point.
Well,
It was already 2-2.
That was the last cup and nail.
Yeah, I mean, if that happened when it was 2-0 and the Kraken scored their first goal and then scored 2 more after that, you could say that changed the whole game. You know, the Kraken scored 2 very Kraken-y goals, through traffic, deflections. That's what they do. They don't have dynamic scorers. They get those greasy goals and they bore you to death. That's how they play. That's what happens when you hire, Lane Lambert, who learned how to play boring hockey from Barry Trotz. So Uncle Barry is probably very proud watching that Kraken team put everybody to sleep. But I don't know. What was your take on that whole Bedard thing? He had a right to be upset. He just went one step too far.
Yeah, I mean, Bedard wouldn't say what he said to the ref, but in a situation like that, it's the same thing in any sport where, especially when it's late in a tie game, all you do is you just say, "Okay, you owe me one," and go back to work. You can't go and yell at the ref while the puck is live. First of all, it's just not a great idea because every minute you're yelling at the ref, you're basically giving the other team a power play because you've taken yourself out of the play. And it's officials in every sport get a very thin skin when they feel like players are showing them up. And that was one of those situations. Again, Bedard was just finishing the play when he skated over there. If the referee had been on the other side of the ice, Bedard might have just yelled at him, "Hey, you owe me," or "Hey, you missed that," or whatever, and open your eyes, whatever it is that he would have said. But at that point, he would have been 40 feet from the ref, and the arm would never have gone up.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it was just like this perfect storm of bad things happening. Poor decisions were made, but also there was some bad luck in there. And the final result was that the Blackhawks got 0 points where they should have gotten 2.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking going into that game like, hey, you got the Kraken as a winnable game. You had 2-0 third period lead. Then you got the Sabres the next night. We'll get to that in a minute. It's like because you get 4 points, you're all right. And now, as it turned out, you get no points out of that 6-game stretch when you were pretty confident they could get 4. So that was a tough loss. My biggest issue with the Bedard thing is, we've seen other star players get away with a lot with that. Connor McDavid never would have got called there. When he was younger and was far more animate about complaining to the refs, I never remember him getting unsportsmanlike in that situation.
Yeah, just like Crosby never got called for embellishment when he was treating the rink like it was a diving pool.
Yeah, I mean, so, and I don't think he said anything over the line. I did like Jeff Blashill's comments afterward, because if not, that call shouldn't have been made. But the thing that upset me most about that whole situation is after the play, the next stoppage, Blashill was trying to get Justin Kia to come over and talk to him, and he didn't go over there. He sent the other ref over there to talk to him.
Yeah,
and that's where you got the lip reading quote from Jeff Blashill. Like, dude, if you make a bad call, go get your tongue lashing, own it, or explain why you did it. The fact you won't even go over and talk to the head coach is garbage. Yeah. If requested after a game, made available to the media so they can explain exactly why they did what. It will never happen. I know major league umpires sometimes can be made available, but the fact that you get no explanation from these guys on any of this stuff, and the players don't even get it half the time. Connor Murphy was talking in the room today, and he just says, half the time they don't tell us anything, and when they do tell us things, we're like, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
But I do give credit to Bedard. That was not cool on my part. So, next time he's in that situation, we'll see what happens. But, next time he's in that situation, I hope that, he's getting a penalty shot, which that should have been in the first place.
He never got a shot off. That should have been a penalty shot.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that fiasco from Seattle carried over into Buffalo because the Blackhawks got absolutely brutalized in a 9-3. The last place team in the Eastern Conference. It's not the Sabres anymore. Because the Sabres went out and beat the Carolina Hurricanes 4-1 the next game out, which makes you feel a little better. And now the Toronto Maple Leafs are the last place team in the Eastern Conference. Boy, that's that game in Buffalo was a nightmare. Just nothing was clicking except for the Connor Bedard line. Tyler Bertuzzi had 2 more goals that game. The first one came late in the first period to make it 3-1, and you're thinking, okay, that's something you could build off of. Come out, get another one in the first half of the second period, and all of a sudden we got a game. And then the Sabres scored 2 goals in like the first minute of the second period, and you're like, ugh. And every time the Hawks, got it to 5. But Blackhawks killer Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who has been hot garbage against 30 teams in the NHL, but really good against the Blackhawks in his career, makes a big save. And of course, 15 seconds later, the Sabres scored at 6-2. And you're like, okay, this game is over again. But those games are going to happen. I think every team, no matter what. I mean, there were Blackhawk game, it happens. But the fact that it happened the day after that Seattle game was really left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, what I was hoping for in the Buffalo game was to see, Nick Foligno wasn't there and Jason Dickinson wasn't dressed. So this was an opportunity for a chip roll, and if nothing else, yell at the guys on the bench, yell at the guys in the room, take the ball, but do something to set the tone and fire the team up a little bit. And they just never got it. I mean, Bedard and his line played well, but that's where you need somebody to kind of light up the room, take you and I were texting during the game, and you even said somebody needs to take the paint off the walls.
Yeah, I mean, start a fight, throw a big check, something.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about that Seattle game, not to circle back a little bit, but when Andre Berkhunger never had the answer for that, really surprised me and disappointed me.
Yeah.
I mean, this team is stuck up for each other all season long, and then that happens and nothing.
Yeah, and Burakovsky being out is the reason why Bertuzzi is skating with Bedard in the first place.
Yeah.
Because when Burakovsky's healthy, and that's been a big if all season so far. When he's healthy, he's been Bedard's running buddy, and they've been great together.
Well, yeah, and Burakovsky, in case you didn't see it earlier, this being Monday, was skating today ahead of practice. practice that he's already on the ice again. So
yeah,
hopefully, maybe by the end of the week, he's back in the lineup and you take it from there. Could have been a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
You never want to see that, and he got put in a vulnerable position, and Ryan Lindgren is one of those guys that when you see somebody in a vulnerable position, he's going to pounce.
Yeah.
But I was a little disappointed that nobody fought. I know at the moment that happened, the Blackhawks were on a power play, so there's really nobody on the ice that is going to do that.
Yeah.
You don't. Table Terrifying isn't going to do that. You definitely don't want Connor Bedard doing that. So,
I mean, Bedard's been spicy, but I don't want him dropping the mitts ever.
No, not for something. Not against a guy like Ryan Lindgren. Lindgren would eat his lunch, and you'd have two guys in concussion protocol instead of just one.
Yeah, that's where you need to. Blashill needs to figure out a way to get Colton Dock on the ice.
But it was the first period. You had 40 minutes of Ryan Lindgren taking shifts. You just go out there and make him answer.
At home, you get the last line change. So, yeah, get Doc out there. Get Crevier out there. Those are two guys who, I mean, I know it's not the 80s and we're not in the Norris division anymore, but still, so many cheap shots when you're better players, or even one of your worst players. As a team, you've got to be there for each other. You've got to make everybody accountable.
And but that's the thing. We've seen it already this year.
Yeah.
Like we saw it home opener. Frank Nazar takes it swooping in.
Yeah.
Colton Dock has stuck up for Frank Nazar when he got hurt in Calgary on a douchebag play. It's disappointing. What wasn't disappointing was their performance Sunday night against the Colorado Avalanche. And I was sitting at morning skate Sunday morning and had mentioned to some of the other beat writers there because, of course, everybody was like, league, 8-game winning streak, 1 regulation loss, all that stuff. They're probably going to lose 300-3 in this game. I said, watch, they're going to win 3-1 tonight because hockey is silly, and that's what happens. And they probably should have won 3-1 or 3-0 because the one goal in that game was not was just such a boneheaded play. But I'm not going to rake Spencer over the coals because
he's been so good all year.
He was so good in that game.
I know.
So.
Yeah, that's second period. He should win the Vezina just off that second period.
The Blackhawks got outshot in the second period. But as Jeff Blashill pointed out today, he said, yeah, the shots look bad, but the scoring chances weren't that bad. Good distances. There wasn't a lot of high danger chances.
Yeah.
And Blashill preaches about that, both for his team and the shots his team gives up.
Yeah.
Like he thinks shots on goal are kind of too much of a general stat where he's more involved in the scoring chances over shots, which I think is a good way to look at it.
Yeah, hitting a goalie in the blocker from 45 feet out counts as a shot on goal, the same as you getting in tight and getting behind a defenseman and suddenly somebody's hitting you with the puck and the goalie needs to stand on his head to stop it, or he's fishing out of the back of the net. Those are both shots on goal, but they're not anywhere near the same thing.
Right. Yeah. But I was, it was kind of the same thing we've seen a lot from the Hawks. I turned to our pal Jay Zawoski with about 3 minutes to go in the first period up in the press box, and I turned to him and said, you know what? If the Blackhawks don't score in this first period, why does it feel like they've lost this game? Because they had so many chances. Ryan Green could have had a hat trick in the first period. He was, Johnny on the spot that whole first period, Connor Bedard's finding
How
him
good
from.
has Ryan Green been?
I mean, if he gets some finish, he's going to be
I know.
excellent. But I think, having another young guy on the line with Connor Bedard is a good thing because he kind of thinks the game the same way,
Mhm.
And the key with him is that he knows just always be ready because that puck is going to find you.
Yeah.
He made that one play. Bedard had 3 guys around him at the end board, and he fired the puck tape to tape to a wide open green. He just missed it. So he's learned keep the stick on the ice and be ready because I'm going to be open
Mhm.
and Connor's going to find me. So just keep your stick on the ice and eventually they'll start going in. But man, Ryan Green has been a really solid addition. I mean, I was excited when the pick was made because I saw a little bit of him when he was playing in the USHL with Green Bay and saw something there, and I knew he anybody drafting guys who are committed to or already playing at BU is never a bad idea because they're ready for the program the second they step on the ice. Man, he's been a guy that was supposed to start the season in Rockford, and then Landon Slager couldn't go that first game, and he got recalled, and that's what you do as a
haven't been able to keep him out.
Yeah, that's what you do as a young kid. When you get recalled, you tell the team, "I'm not going back. You can't send me back," and that's exactly what he's done because he's been versatile. Now, is he a top line winger his whole career? No, that's not really his style. But he's made the most of this opportunity. You'd like to see him finish a couple of those plays, but those will come.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned in your article, I think it was this morning, talking about Frank Nazar, and Nazar has not been that much of a presence, and you were wondering if he might be playing through an injury or something like that. And I was kind of thinking the same things, like, Nazar, and because Nazar's been kind of quiet, so is Oliver Moore.
Right.
So, it makes me wonder if this is a situation where maybe, let Nazar do an IR stint just to get him right. And now watch, we're saying this, he's going to get 2 goals against Minnesota.
Hey, I'm for it.
2 goals and an assist. Yeah, I'm for it too.
I mean, he did have assists in 4 straight games before last night, so it wasn't like he was completely worthless out there. He was producing. It just he's not the dynamic player he was before that Calgary game.
No.
And Blashill alluded to it a little bit. He was asked about it today, and said, he probably wasn't 100% when he first came back, but he said he's expecting him to get it back to that high level here in the very near future. So to me, that sounds like, he was still hurt when he got back, but he's getting there. He practiced today. I thought maybe he'd get the day off because there was a play in that Colorado game in the first period, I believe it was, where he got checked behind the net and like kind of right away, did this and went off the ice.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, that looked like that hurt. But he's a tough kid, maybe to a fault. But he practiced today. He was on the ice a half hour before practice shooting pucks. So, he's feeling okay, I guess. But there's definitely, I mean, a lot of people are noticing it and saying the same thing. Like, I don't think maybe he came back too early, which is not.
That happens.
It happens in every sport and every, especially for a young kid like Frank Nazar, that's probably like, I'm finally here. I'm not going to voluntarily, but that's when a guy like Jason Dickinson, who finally learned, self-admittedly saying, I came back too early this season and I shut myself down till I knew I was 100%. So maybe that's when you pull him aside and say, hey, Frank, let's take a couple days off here and see where we're at. But he hasn't been a hindrance. He hasn't been a liability, but he just hasn't been that same Frank Nazar.
Now I'm going to go off the outline here for a second.
All right. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that, but let's go.
I'm going to talk about the sudden emergence of Connor Bedard as an all-around center. Like
Yeah.
we always knew he could score, but the job he did against McKinnon's line, he actually his line beat McKinnon's line in possession. And that I was kind of wondering if it was the right move because putting him out there against he did a great job, don't get me wrong, but also, it probably hindered his ability to kind of run wild against the third line. When you're at home and you can get Bedard that matchup, but he was great against McKinnon. And I don't know, you're at the practices. I don't know how much he's been working with. Is Yannick Perreault working at the practices with him?
I haven't seen him much. He was there in training camp, but it's Michael Pekka.
It's Michael Pekka.
Michael Pekka was a great face-off guy too.
Yeah, and he's up over 50% in face-offs. I never would have expected that.
Which is insane.
I know.
I mean, he was like a 33% in his career, and now he's over 50. Absolutely incredible. We had talked in the beginning before the season started, like we'd be happy if Connor Bedard could get up to like 44, 45%. We could live with that.
Yeah, get like Dave Bolin numbers.
Yeah, I mean, but to be at over 50% here, a quarter of the way into the season, that is just. But he's just doing so many of those little things that he wasn't doing before.
He's a lot more aggressive on the forecheck.
Yeah, and the back check too. He's getting back. He's playing defense. And something else that he's done a lot this year that he was, not doing a lot, especially his rookie season. He knows when to jump off the ice when he's been on his shift is too long. He made a play last night where, he made a back check. It was a play where he got like a one-on-one with a defender and got the puck kind of taken away from him and turned around. And instead of rejoining the play and staying on the ice for another 30, 40 seconds, he waved off, got off the ice behind the play. And he's done that a lot more. Those are things he didn't do those first couple of years. But I also think having an actual coach that kind of coaches him and holds him accountable has a lot to do with that too. To where before, especially in his rookie season, it was kind of like, Connor can kind of do whatever he wants.
Right. By the way, I would totally watch a sci-fi movie that had a 200-foot Bedard in it.
Yeah, right. 200-foot. It's going to be the next Godzilla villain will be a 200-foot Bedard. 200-foot Bedard versus the the Atomic Woman or whatever that bionic.
Well, I know. I think it was last year. Fells was calling Vlasic Mecha Hjalmarsson. So that could be a 200-foot Bedard versus Mecha Hjalmarsson.
200-foot Bedard. Isn't that a Flaming Lips song?
Probably.
No, but you're right. The two-way game has been a very pleasant surprise, and I'm not like
I knew giving him the Selke yet or anything. Don't get me wrong.
No.
But there's definitely been an improvement,
and I knew there would be at some point because just the way he is, his work ethic, his mentality that he wants to be the best player that he could possibly be. I knew he was going to eventually get around to focusing on that and getting better. I just didn't think he'd get this much better this fast.
Yeah. Good enough is not good enough for him.
Right.
For lack of a better way to put it. Maybe he's been listening to Ben Johnson's locker room speeches at the end of games. And he's like sitting there, good, better, best, never let it rest.
Maybe. But he stole that from Billy Williams' Hall of Fame speech, though.
I know.
But it's working.
I love a good unhinged coach.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is a hockey podcast, but like the Bears are 8-3, and I still have no idea if they're any good.
I know. Well, that's kind of the Hawks. We talked about the balance between can they figure it out while their goaltending is still bailing them out, and like this was a rough week for them, but the Hawks are in a no-lose situation. So if they pull it back together, if they get into playoff contention, great. If they make the playoffs, better. If they don't, they have 2 picks already in the first round. They'll have another pick. See where it lands. I mean, Florida is so dinged up right now. I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, Kachuk is supposed to be back before the Olympics. We'll see. Losing Barkov was the killer. And they've had other guys getting hurt too. And they're all out long term.
And guys like Sam Bennett and Carter Verhaeghe have completely underachieved this year. Why do I know this? I had them both on my fantasy team for a couple of weeks.
And there's certain guys when you see them coming up on free agency, like, oh, I would love. Like, I have a friend, Dave Lassiter, who used to write for, oh God, SB Nation's Panthers blog like a million years ago. And he and I are friends. I try to see him every time I get down to South Florida. And right before Verhaeghe was getting ready to go into his walk year, I was like, oh yeah, if you guys want to spare a gently used Carter Verhaeghe, I'm sure the Blackhawks would be happy to take him out. Verhaeghe and Montour, I was like, I'd take both those guys. But
but he'll get. I have more faith in Carter Verhaeghe. He's a guy that lives for the big moments.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's had that 42 goal season, and then he had over 30 the following year. Kind of had a bit of a down year for him last year with only 20 goals. What a bum! But he scores so many big goals in the playoffs. So I don't worry too much about him. But a lot of people were, here in Chicago, were really wanting, oh yeah, go give Sam Bennett whatever he wants. And I like Sam Bennett, but it's just he got the big contract, and so far hasn't lived up to it. But again, we're only a quarter of the way of the season. Those guys will figure it out.
Yeah, and once, like I said, once Kachuk comes back, that the top of the ladder changes a little bit. I mean, the one guy who has been a captain before is Marchand, and he's playing like a captain this year down there.
He's been their best player.
Let's get back to the Hawks though, because we still have more stuff to talk about. Another good friend of mine. I feel like I'm taking a walk down memory, like all the guys I used to always see at Hawks games. Like, I'd always walk in and say, see Sam, like, hey Sam, he'd give me a copy of the program, and I'd look at the top 10, and it was always terrible because I wrote it. And then I'd always, between the first and second periods, I'd always go to Ironworks and see another good friend, Chris Block. And Block on X the other day basically said that the Hawks should find a team that hasn't figured out Bertuzzi yet and move Bertuzzi. The Hawks aren't in the place where they should have a placeholder forward, and he only scores when they don't need it. And Bertuzzi's been a polarizing player since the day the Hawks signed him. At the end of last season, one of the guys in the Athletic brought up more than once the possibility of him being bought out. And I was like, there's no way the Hawks are buying a guy out who's got 3 years left on his deal. But that's just the guy Bertuzzi's been, where people love him, people hate him. It's like, I don't know anybody who watches the Blackhawks is ambivalent about Tyler Bertuzzi. My feeling about Tyler Bertuzzi is he's fine for what he is. If you were to trade Tyler Bertuzzi, who would come and do Tyler Bertuzzi things? They don't have anybody. Not now, they don't anyway.
Yeah. I was not a fan of bringing him in. When I remember we were in Vegas for the draft, that summer, and that's when the rumors started coming. The Blackhawks looking at Bertuzzi. I hated it then. I hated the deal. I hated the comp. Still not a fan of the length of the contract.
Yeah.
And there were times last year I was like, okay, this is working out, and then there were times last year I was like, oh boy,
yeah. I mean,
but this season, man, he has been awesome. And
and Jeff Blashill. Jeff, you said before the season started, Jeff Blashill is the Bertuzzi whisperer.
Yeah, and I think something has to do with it. Tyler's said too that, like, last year you're coming over, you're on a new team, you're in a new city, you got all that other stuff going on, learning the city, all the thing, and now he can come in this year more focused on the hockey. And that plays a part in it. But for whatever reason, Jeff Blashill gets the best out of him. Has everywhere he's they've been together. They won a Calder Cup together in Grand Rapids. He scored 30 goals with them in Detroit. But yeah, the whole that whole take from Chris Block, not his best. That's for sure.
It's fine. I mean, look. I am not gonna sit here and argue the merits of what he said, because I actually agree with some of it. I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I kind of see Bertuzzi as a placeholder. He's not, when the Hawks get to be good again, and right now all signs are pointing towards that happening. Bertuzzi's not going to be part of the team.
No.
So it would be like, I remember way back in the early days of the Hockey Night podcast, might have been the first time we had him on, and he went on a long rant about how much James Wisniewski sucked. And I think at some point in that, I even said, well, yeah, I don't think James Wisniewski is a guy who's going to be around this team for that long. You knew Duncan Keith was going to be there. You knew Brent Seabrook was going to be there, and you knew. Yeah, I think at that point, I don't know if Jalmerson was up full time or if he was still riding the shuttle. But you could see, okay, here's a guy who blocks a lot of shots, and he needs to stop flipping the puck over the glass. But you could see where he's going to be a pretty good defenseman. And when this avalanche of young forwards starts coming in, next year there's going to be, fortunately the Blackhawks have 9 empty contract slots, I think, at this point. I think they have 41 signed contracts.
That sounds right.
So so when guys are ready to go pro at the end of the year, they can bring them right in and not have too much of an issue with it. I mean, there's not 9 guys that they're going to bring in at the end of this year. If they can bring Frondell's already signed, so he doesn't even count. But if Kentserov can come over, yeah, they'll sign Kentserov and put him in there. If Frondell can come over, they'll put Frondell in. And more and more of these guys are going to come along, and as more and more of these guys come along, there's not going to be room for guys like Tyler Bertuzzi. And Tyler Bertuzzi makes $5 million a year. Somebody will take him for $5 million a year. He stays in relatively good health. He parks in front of the net. He'll doink in 20 goals a year. I mean, right now he's on a 40-plus goal pace. I don't expect that will continue. But he'll doink in the puck once in a while, and he's fine for what he is. He's not a guy who's going to get major minutes on a cup contender, and whether that be in Chicago or anywhere else. So I don't worry too much about Tyler Bertuzzi. But since we've started talking about younger players, I think it's about time to start cranking our hogs.
Absolutely. And I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah, and of course the young heartthrob in Rockford, young Nicholas Lardis. I'm assuming he's Nicholas.
I would assume so too. He's Greek. There's a pretty good chance of that.
Oh yeah. Boy, if anybody could bring Greektown back to Chicago, Nick Lardis could be the guy.
Nick Lardis and Charlie, get him to open up a restaurant together.
But yeah, Lardis had 4 goals last weekend?
Yep, 2 goals Friday, 2 goals Saturday. 2 of those 4 were on the power play, and they were snipes. I mean, they were.
I was going to say they were total snipes.
Yeah.
He's looking pretty ready. I don't know how much. Unfortunately, because I'm cheap and I haven't I'm not going to spend the money on flow hockey because I also just wouldn't have the time to watch the Ice Hogs play. I see the goals. I don't see the rest of the game. So I don't know how he's doing when he's not scoring goals because I know we've talked about this. The phrase that you've used is coaching the junior out of him, because Nick Lardis last year was scoring 70 goals. He's never going to score 70 goals again as long as he lives. So he has to learn how to play in an environment where he's not just the cock of the walk every single night. And he had two goal games this weekend, but he'll go up against some tough teams, and AHL, you've got some veteran teams there, and that's where you need to see what he's got. I do think that time's getting shorter. I think he's getting closer to ready. I mean, if I wouldn't be stunned if the Blackhawks called him up this week. I wouldn't be stunned if they call him up next week. I would be stunned if they didn't have him up by the Olympic break, unless they want to just keep him in Rockford to play through the Olympics.
That is probably likely, unless he's called up here before Christmas and is just killing it, and they're like, "All right, you're an NHL player now."
Yeah,
I think with Lardis, they have to have a spot for him, and he's a top 6 guy. He's not going to come up here and play on the 4th line or play on the 3rd line. He's got to be in that top 6.
right.
Jay and I had talked last night on the CHGO post-game show about Frank Nazar and if he needs to be shut down. I said, well, maybe this could be the time where you shut down Nazar for this week if he needs it, and you bring up Nick Lardis and you say you're just coming up for these 3 games until Frank is back, and then we're going to send you back. Well, this is your reward for your start. Show us what you could do here, and then we'll see what happens. Because you can't do what you did with Lucas Reichel and bring him up and stick him next to Pat Maroon and Craig Smith. And that, no, he has to play top 6. And right now, there really isn't a top 6 spot. I know Burakovsky's out, but I mean, do you bring him up and put him up there, and then you put Ryan Green on the 3rd line where it's suited more for him? I don't think anybody would be upset about that. It's not like you can't take Ryan Green off the top line.
And the other thing too is if they decide, okay, we want to just get Frank healthy, you move more into that 2C spot, and Nazar gets his first couple games in the NHL skating with somebody that he had a lot of success with in the AHL. You put Moore and Lardis out there together, and that, it's like a healthy. When Nazar was healthy, he and Moore were turning into a real problem.
Right.
And Moore and Lardis can be the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's options. It's not like they have guys in the top 6 in Chicago that are locked in. Like, you could put Ryan Green down in the lineup.
Yeah,
you could put Tavo on the 3rd line if you absolutely had to. Tavo with Jason Dickinson and Ilya Mikheyev, you could do a lot worse than that.
Yeah,
trio.
but you'd like to have one veteran on that line, and Tavo's the guy who could skate with Moore and Nazar.
So, I mean,
and also he's more of a playmaker than either of those guys.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe you put Lardis, if you call him up when Burakovsky comes back, you put him up there with Bedard and Burakovsky and see what he can do.
Yeah.
And then you still have your 2nd line with Nazar and Tavo and Moore, and then you put Ryan Green down. Maybe Ryan Green plays with Mikheyev and Dickinson, or it's Green and Doc on that 4th line. There's options. I don't think Ryan Green is locked into a top 6 spot, but in order to bring Lardis up, there has to be a top 6 spot for him ready.
Right.
You can't play him down in the lineup. So I think that's what they're waiting for. They got bought some time. Some of the pressure was taken off when Lardis went 5 games without a point to start November, then got banged up a little bit, and then was sick, missed 2 games. One was because he got banged up a little bit, and then the other was because he was sick. And that injury was not a big deal. I was actually at that Ice Hogs game, went out to Rockford that Sunday and had 3/4 of a story written about Nick Lardis. And I was like, all right, just going to ask to talk to him after the game, get a couple quotes, yada, 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 be done. And then as I pull into the BMO Center, I see the tweet that he's not playing, that he's a scratch. So of course, he's everybody starts thinking, oh, he's getting called up because the night before was when Nick Foligno had got hurt.
Yeah.
So everybody was like, oh, they're going to call up Lardis. I'm like, I don't think you're calling up Nick Lardis to replace Nick Foligno. Not exactly the same thing. No. But the second I walk into the building, I see Ice Hogs general manager Mark Bedard, and he clarified it for me. But while we're talking about the Ice Hogs and mentioning Mark Bedard, I do want to give out a shout out to Bernie, who is just got back from the Mayo Clinic with a round of chemo. Yeah. Was diagnosed with cancer earlier in the summer, has been battling with that, but back at the rink and doing well. So I just want to give Bernie a shout out. He's one of my favorite hockey people on the planet, one of the nicest guys. Will do anything for you. When we had to put down one of our dogs last summer, the first person that text messaged me was Mark Bedard. And I'm like, man, like that's not something, you would think. I would think a guy in his position would have more important things to do, but one of the best people in the hockey. So just wanted to give him a shout out and let him know we're all thinking of him.
Yeah, it's good to see he's back in the saddle. And I also saw the other night Winnipeg had their Hockey Fights Cancer night, and Taves gave he had his card for Troy Murray.
Yeah.
So
Troy, yeah, we definitely those of us who are fortunate enough to be at the rink every day, we all miss Troy. Not having him there is a big void. Another one of the best people that I've met through this game. So yeah, he is dearly missed, and we're hoping that he can get his way back to the United Center soon. But that was a very cool gesture from Jonathan Taves. Not surprising in the least. A lot of connections between those two guys. Both went to North Dakota. Both won Selkes wearing number 19 for the Hawks. And both played for the Winnipeg Jets as their first team after their Blackhawks career. So lots of similarities between those two guys.
The other guy in Rockford who's playing really well, but there's nowhere in Chicago for him, is Kevin Korchinski. Korchinski just keeps racking up assists.
Yeah, he's got 12 in 18 games now.
Yeah.
A lot of them are primary. A lot of them are on the power play. I'd like to see him get a couple goals here too. He's not, but he's playing well. Yeah. He's doing everything they want him to do, but he's, again, another guy where they just don't have a spot for him right now. And that's not a bad thing per se.
Oh, no. And, if the Hawks don't bounce back, teams are going to start calling about Matt Grelchek. They're going to start calling about Connor Murphy. And, that's two spots right there. I really don't see anybody else, any other defenseman that Kyle Davidson's got to be in any hurry to trade. Everybody else is going to be pretty young.
Right.
If they trade Murphy and they trade Grelchek, at that point, your veteran defenseman is Alex Vlasic.
Right. Well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, again, injuries are a thing too. So
yeah, injuries are always a thing, and hockey's weird. Who's to say that now the Hawks won't go out and rack up a bunch of points? And I mean, yeah, they had a rough weekend, right? But a rough 3 games. But the fact of the matter is, there's still only 1 point behind the Mammoth for the last wild card spot. They're not out of it by any means.
No. And they got some winnable games coming up. I mean, I know the Wild have been playing better but they've been getting tons of shutouts. And then the Nashville Predators come to town. So those are teams you can, the Ducks come in on Sunday. They're a fun team, but they've kind of been up and down, and you've beat them once already this season. So we'll see what happens. As far as Korchinski goes, I think everybody thinks Murphy will get traded at some point as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah. I don't think
he wants to, but he's also a guy that I think Kyle Davidson will go to. And if Connor Murphy says, I don't want to pack up, he's got the young family. He's like, I just want to play it out. They'll keep him. They're not going to trade him if he doesn't want to be traded.
No. put in too many years with too many bad Blackhawks teams to. But if they say to him, look, we got this. Let's say for instance, who's looking for a defenseman? Okay,
Everybody.
everybody always needs a defenseman.
Edmonton's always looking for a defenseman.
Yeah. His problem is if he goes to Edmonton, they might strap goalie equipment on him.
Yeah, or Toronto is always looking, but why would he want to go to a worse team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Toronto to stay at the bottom of the East either.
I don't, but
it's fun.
It's so tight.
Yeah.
What did somebody say that the same difference between in the standings, the point difference between the Colorado Avalanche and second place in the conference or in the overall league standings is the same difference between second place and 25th.
Yep.
So it's punched.
Yeah, Colorado's got 37 points, and next you got Carolina and Dallas with 30. So you got a 7-point spread. But then, yeah, from 30 down to 23, that's almost everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens at the beginning of the season when you have a lot of interconference play, a lot of East-West matchups. We're going to start seeing more divisional play, and these things are going to start sorting out pretty quickly. I mean, the Hawks have 3 straight division games here they're in the midst of. Yeah. But, the one guy we were talking today, Matt Grzelcyk, I could totally see them turning him into the veteran leader guy and giving him a 1 or 2 year deal at the end of this year if they don't trade him, because he's been solid, much better than I think anybody. You never talk about him because you never notice him, and when you're a defenseman, especially like a third pairing defenseman, when you're not noticed, you're doing your job,
right?
And he's been really good this year, and I could see them rewarding him. Instead of trading him at the deadline, we'll give you a 1 year extension at the Olympic break, and then you don't have to worry about the trade rumors.
Right. And, I feel like every single game, Hockey Stat Cards puts out their game card at the end of every game. And I feel like Grzelcyk's always one of the top guys for the Hawks. I think he's above water in Corsi and Fenwick for the year. Everything you need him to do, he's doing, and he's giving you a good probably about 15 minutes a night.
Yeah, for your 6th defenseman, he's been. You could do a lot worse. The Blackhawks have done a lot worse in very recent memory. I mean, it's a big step up from Jarrett Tenorti or Jacob Megna. Let's be serious here. And I'm still surprised that Grzelcyk had to go the PTO route.
I don't never made sense to me that at all.
He had 39 assists last season with the Penguins.
And I mean,
I know a lot was on the power play, but
last year was kind of flukish. But actually, his assists last year, he had 15 on the power play, 24 even strength.
Yeah.
But he's a guy, even without the flukish high point number, he had 40 points last year. But, you can usually dial him in for somewhere in the 20s, and again, he's a third pair guy. That's great.
Yeah, with the way teams just overpay for garbage defensemen at the trade deadline, I was shocked he had to go do a PTO.
Yeah, and you look at his career numbers, and his Corsi, his Fenwick, his PTO, they're good every year. Yeah. I mean, I will also say that he's never had a year where he's been under 50% in offensive zone starts. That probably helps.
But, and he's never going to be a guy that goes out there and faces the Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid lines on a nightly basis either. That helps.
Right.
But hey, bum slaying gets you paid, my man.
Oh, yeah. Bum slaying's the worst ways to make a living.
Keeps you in the league a long, long time.
It certainly does. I think we've covered all of our topics for this week.
There's one thing I just want to address quickly before we wrap this up, and that was that I don't know if you saw it. I know you're not on X anymore, you lucky bastard. The video somebody posted of Connor Bedard refusing to sign an autograph.
I saw that on Instagram. I saw that on Instagram.
Two things I loved out of all this was the fact that, the guy that posted it. Now, the guy that posted it on
The
X
guy
was not
he posted it as a flex, like, oh,
right,
look at what a tool Connor Bedard is.
and he just
And
got owned. Owned.
yeah,
Everybody is like, you're an idiot. And from what I understand, the guy that posted it is not the guy in the video.
yeah, okay.
But he
But
still, the
still,
way he worded it was like, oh, look at this bad guy, Connor Bedard. And everybody's like, no, that guy asking for the autograph is a complete jackass.
yeah.
And the fact that Bedard first says, hey, who do I want to make it out to? Joe? He's like, sure, I can find a guy named Joe I could sell it to. And then he just scribbles and just ruins the guy's name.
Yeah, he just draws a line. This is just a straight line.
Good on you, man. Because Connor Bedard, I have seen Connor Bedard numerous times at Blackhawks practice in full gear, grabbing pucks and jerseys from kids and signing them during practice and taking time. He is super generous with his time with us in the media, with different organizations, and with fans. But there's a line to be crossed. He is as respectful as it gets, but respect is a two-way street. It's earned. Yeah. It's not given. And those guys were a-holes and they were lucky that, it wasn't worse than that. And from what I understand, the guy had some of those like meta glasses on. It wasn't like he was recording with the phone.
Oh,
so if he had his phone out like this, Bedard probably would have just been like, okay, fine, this guy's clearly recording, I'll sign it for him. Just so the whole thing was garbage, but I love the fact that Connor Bedard handled it the way he did.
Yeah.
And that's something he probably doesn't do last year or 2 years ago. Just like we were talking about some of the stuff that he's doing on the ice.
Well,
he's definitely becoming more comfortable in, speaking up on and off the ice.
Well, I mean, he's had exceptional status. He came into the WHL with exceptional status. So he's been around guys like that for a very long time. How many guys, I mean, I don't go to junior hockey games, but I'm sure there's always one or two of those guys at junior hockey games who'll show up with a box of pucks or, a sleeve of hockey cards or something and want them all signed.
Yeah, I will never understand.
I've seen him at minor league baseball games. I've seen him at, look, I have signed things in my house, but the things that I have that are signed, it was, first of all, in every instance, it was somewhere where the guy was there signing.
Right.
I'm not going to walk into a restaurant, see Connor Bedard at a restaurant, run down the street to Gunzo's or something, buy a puck, come back and stick a puck in his face.
Yeah.
Because, these guys, look, I know they make a lot of money, but they're making a lot of money because we pay a lot of money for them to entertain us. And so they need to have, let them have dinner, man. Just let them live a little, and if you're an adult, wait for a meet and greet, wait for him to show up at a baseball card store or, the Hawks convention or whatever it is. Just, wait for, there's a time and a place.
Yeah. The adult autograph hounds are people I will never understand.
And they all do it. Look, I've been in the business and, I know people that are in the business now. And look, if you want to collect autographs, great. There's a way to, you can do there's no hobby in the world you can't do unless you're hunting endangered animals or something. There's no hobby you can't do without being a dick. You can always do it without being a dick.
Yeah.
So that's our takeaway for this week, kids. Don't be a dick.
That's a good stopping point. That's about as good as we're going to get.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. I'm Greg Boyson. That's Frank Nova. We've been hanging out in the second balcony. We appreciate you climbing up all those stairs. Speaking of the second balcony, check out the Madhouse episode.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about that tonight.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Check that out. We'll talk about it next show for sure. We'll make sure we talk about that. But that was reliving my childhood. It was excellent. Well done. Hats off to the Blackhawks for putting that together. Check that out after you
Definitely love
hit
that they had
subscribe
Eddie
and
Olczyk.
like.
I love that Eddie Olczyk narrating it. As much as I love Dilla Thomas doing the first one, Eddie Olczyk
Yeah.
was the perfect guy for this one.
Yeah, it was well done. Everything's done, well done on that end. So check that out if you haven't already. And we're gonna figure out when we'll be back. We should be back sooner than last time, but we won't be back before Thanksgiving. So all of you have a healthy and happy, safe Thanksgiving later on this week. Enjoy your families, enjoy your meals. If you enjoy whatever it is you're doing. If you're hanging out by yourself having a TV dinner, I hope it's the best TV dinner you've ever had. And I know I, for one, am very thankful for everybody who clicks and listens, because if without you guys, I'd have to go get a real job, and I don't ever want to do that again. So thank you all.
And nobody wants to talk to me for an hour unless there's something like an audience.
Yeah, unless they're charging by the hour as like a therapist or a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we weren't doing this, I'd be asking Greg what he's wearing. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, now I can just show him. All right,
Yeah.
sounds good. We'll see everybody next time up here in the second balcony. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Okay.